Hey, what is happening, guys? How are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to talk about some updates from Nintendo about their last two big games for the year, Pikmin 3 Deluxe and Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. So you might notice that it has been more than 1 week since I officially posted a video, even though I did do a live stream this past Sunday. As far as actual videos and new content, it's been a while, and I don't typically do that, but I kind of had this impromptu break from making videos and content that I really just, I don't want to say that I felt like I needed it. I think it's just something that happened kind of organically, because suddenly I just didn't feel like making any videos and getting on camera and turning my microphone and stuff on and talking to you guys about anything happening in gaming. There wasn't too much huge news, but there was a couple of things scattered throughout the past week that I probably could have talked about, but I don't know. I just wasn't feeling up to it, so I allowed myself to just not care about making videos for a couple of days, and it's honestly felt pretty great. I very much enjoyed it. In fact, it might even still continue after today. I might not be too worried about trying to get a video out every couple of days, unless there's huge news, but either way, with this past week's update about Pikmin and Hyrule Warriors, I realized it's maybe a good time to get back on camera and discuss some of this fun stuff for you guys. And so anyway, let's just get that house cleaning stuff out of the way and move on to the topic. Of course, I want to remind you that I am trying to cross 15,000 subscribers before the year is over. I am very, very close, as you might see, so of course, as you watch this video, if you like what I'm doing, then maybe consider subscribing to the channel to help me cross that milestone before 2020 is over. So like I was saying at the beginning of the video, Pikmin 3 Deluxe and Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity are the only two big, high-profile, first-party Nintendo games that we know to expect in 2020 before the year is over. And per my own speculation and discussions I've had with you guys recently, they're the last two games that I do expect. I'm not really expecting some sort of big surprise announcement all of a sudden of a high-profile exclusive Switch game before the year is over. I think that this is truly it as far as big exclusive titles for a Nintendo console. We are getting the Phoenix Rising game from Ubisoft in December, but that is a multi-platform game. It really, at this point, comes down to Pikmin and Hyrule Warriors. And so earlier this week, Nintendo decided to give us a Treehouse presentation about both of these games, which was very cool, very exciting. It's nice to see Nintendo kind of doing things and discussing their upcoming products and their games and giving us demonstrations. You know, we live in a 2020 pandemic world where the typical Nintendo and the rhythm and pace that we're used to them releasing news and games and Nintendo Directs has gone out the window. They haven't been doing that all year. It's been very sad, very hard to deal with, but for the most part, understandable. At least, as you've heard me say, for the first half of the year was understandable. Coming into the back half of the year, I feel like Nintendo maybe could have started doing some more normal things, but to their credit, they've had a couple of big announcements. Hyrule Warriors is very exciting. They've done some, of those partner presentations, which the first two were not good at all. The third one was definitely a step in the right direction, so I think we might be kind of at the end of this bell curve for Nintendo, where we might start seeing more of the normal stuff coming into the new year. The first half of this Treehouse was focused on Pikmin 3, and, I mean, how many times do you guys have to hear me tell you how much I love Pikmin 3? The Wii U release, using the gamepad and the Wii Remote together, is one of my all-time favorite Nintendo-made games of all time. And it's definitely one of my favorite games of the past decade. I also think it's one of the best-looking games of the past decade. And again, I'm talking about the 2013 Wii U release here, okay? Not the upcoming Pikmin 3 Deluxe on the Switch. The game is absolutely masterful. So, Pikmin 3 becomes the next in a long line of Wii U titles that have been ported from the Wii U over to the Switch, because the Wii U was a sales failure and the Switch is a sales, crazy, amazing success. And so Nintendo has been taking some of their best titles and moving it to the console. It's been a controversial choice. Some people love it because they didn't have a Wii U, and so they're finally getting to play these great games. Other people have been very upset and disappointed because, a lot of us Nintendo fans did have a Wii U. Most of us, actually I shouldn't say most of us, but a lot of us have played these games. I've played every single one of these games, except for Tokyo Mirage Sessions, because that doesn't really appeal to me. Every other Wii U port I own. I own it to this day, and I played it when they released. So it's like, each one of these releases isn't a new release to me. It's just old content, an old game from not that long ago that I've already played, Pikmin 3 is just the next to do this same thing. However, because Pikmin 3 is so good, and because it seems like Nintendo is putting in a bit more effort into this port, I'm actually getting pretty excited, and I feel even better about it coming off of the Treehouse presentation. The main thing they confirmed that I had been wondering and discussing for so long since that game was announced is if you are going to be able to use motion controls, specifically with the Joy-Cons, to emulate the Wii remote pointing of Pikmin 3 on the Wii U, which to me was a euphoric way to play that game, and they did confirm you can do it. For me, that is massive news that makes the release of this game on the Switch so much more exciting than if they weren't doing this, because I'm really excited to see how it's going to feel. Just like I discussed a couple of weeks ago with the Super Mario 3D All-Stars release, and how for Mario Galaxy, the Joy-Cons can emulate the Wii remote pointing, and how I think that opens up a whole new world of what's possible for classic Nintendo ports to the Switch, you know, from the Wii console. I feel like this becomes another example of, like, if they could do it in Galaxy, they can do it in Pikmin 3, and they seem to be doing it. Plenty of control options. Very, very excited for that. They also, one of the biggest and most exciting things about the game is the fact that there's going to be single-player co-op, which the Wii U release did not have, and new extra Olimar-focused missions and content. So there is new content that was not in the previous game added to this release. Beyond the DLC that already existed, they're also adding Switch-specific content. That is great news. It is, to my knowledge, the only Wii U port I think that actually has Switch-exclusive content added to it. You know, features and bells and whistles and changing up of, like, menus and stuff, like quality of life stuff, is different than new actual gameplay content. And so I really think Pikmin 3 is the first Wii U port to do this. And they talked about how there's an epilogue and a prologue. There's a couple of missions each that stars Olimar, which is great to see him play a bigger role in this game, and you can actually control him and also play those in co-op. And it doesn't look like there's a whole lot new that they're adding to this. Like, it looks the same, it feels the same, it's very familiar territory that we're looking at in this content that they showed in the Treehouse. But it's still stuff and missions and levels that none of us have ever played before. And so to me, that inherently has a little bit of value, okay? So I'm at the point where, with so few Switch releases I'm going to play throughout the rest of the year, basically like 1 or 2, you know, I feel like this suddenly becomes a lot more exciting because it's got the motion control, and they detailed the single-player co-op, and of course the extra Switch-exclusive content featuring Olimar, who's the man. Like, I love Olimar. I just feel like this is really turning out to be a pretty solid package. So beyond the fact that it's an amazing game that a lot of people haven't played, there might be enough here to it to probably justify my second purchase. So I pretty much think I'm all in on picking this up thanks to the Treehouse. Then we come to Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, and I gotta tell you guys, this game has me so excited. I love what they are doing with this game. I am so excited that this game even exists, okay? I know a lot of people might write it off as just a spin-off title that doesn't matter and won't make a big splash. And, I mean, if that's how you feel, then that's how you feel. I can't really take that away from you. I mean, it is a spin-off. That part is, like, objectively true. We can't deny it. It's a Zelda spin-off, sure. But this one, you know, different to the original Hyrule Warriors, this one is so much different because this has actual canon story context to the Breath of the Wild, like, universe, if we want to call it a universe. Because we know there's Breath of the Wild, there's a direct sequel that's going to continue the gameplay, the world, and the story. And then here comes Age of Calamity, that while it's in the Warriors Musou title kind of package, it still contains real, substantial context to this story. Not to mention the fact that the game is just cool, okay? It just has a cool factor to it because we can play as characters like Zelda and Urbosa and young Impa, who are the 3 characters, as well as Link, that they featured during the Treehouse demo. And we know we're going to get to play as all of the other champions, and we're going to get to play as, you know, that Robbie character and like the Sheikah observatory researchers, you know, like from the original Breath of the Wild. Like, they're throwing in a lot of other cool characters and cool moves and abilities that we're going to get to experience. And these warrior games are just great, kind of just mindless action games. And I'm going to be real with you guys. Sometimes I like a good mindless action game. I absolutely do. That's why a game like Bayonetta, for example, appeals so much to me, or Devil May Cry, or the original Hyrule Warriors, because it's in a world and a universe that I know and love, with characters that I love, fighting enemies that I'm familiar with and using weapons that I'm familiar with, but it's just like turn your brain off and do a bunch of superpower moves and kill hundreds of enemies at once. And now that we're going to get to do it in the Breath of the Wild world with all of these cool characters, while also getting story context for the previous game and the upcoming game, I mean, if you can't tell, I'm gushing about it because I think it's so incredibly exciting. Now, a great surprise bonus that they threw in during this treehouse is they showcased the fact that the entire Breath of the Wild map, as we know it now, that huge map, is available in some capacity to you, the player, in between your missions. Now, they didn't really show enough about it to let us understand if we're like supposed to be able to run around the world or go to every single location, but they did show the entire map with tons of icons and locations in each section of the map, and they showed us how that's where you can do your leveling up and go to your blacksmith and fix your weapons and upgrade your gear and do all of the in-between mission-y loot-based stuff and RPG-based stuff that these games allow you to do. And so I think that there might be something really cool there. To me, it shows that there could be a ton of variety to the locations and the weapons and the characters, and maybe based on the section of the map you go to, obviously has to do with what, you know, maps you're going to be fighting within. So I think we're going to see everything that the original Breath of the Wild had to offer just in this Hyrule Warriors action package. And while I don't expect for there to be the open world aspect to the map, I think it's pretty cool that they're still giving us some access to the entire map for the sake of playing this game in the Breath of the Wild sort of skin. I just see nothing but great stuff coming from this. It's going to have real story meaning, and I've said it before, I'll say this again, I think it's going to have more story context and impact to Breath of the Wild 2 than it's going to retroactively have to Breath of the Wild 1. I feel like this game is like a buffer or a preparation or a prerequisite to playing Breath of the Wild 2 and seeing where that story is going to take us. So I feel like Nintendo is very smartly charting this course through the story, and it's going to culminate in Breath of the Wild 2 hopefully next year. And I think Hyrule Warriors is going to be a great game to kind of tide us over until that happens. So, I mean, if you can't tell, I'm just over the moon about this. It's going to be amazing. And so really, I think that's most of what I have to say. Just a quick update about both games. The Treehouse was very awesome for what it was and detailed a lot of info about both titles that has a lot of people excited. And I just wanted to share that excitement. I wasn't going to try to break down every single fine detail and zoom in on different things and do any of that stuff. That's not my bag. I just wanted to talk about my initial gut reaction to the pieces of info that we gleaned from both Pikmin 3 and Hyrule Warriors, and how they just make me more excited for two games I was already very excited for. Granted, with Pikmin 3 being a game I've otherwise already played. But this Treehouse essentially convinced me to double dip. It'll be, with the exception of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, because I thought that was a one-time thing at the time, since Mario Kart 8 in the second month of the Switch's life, Pikmin 3 in October of 2020 is going to be the next Wii U title that I purchase on the Switch. I didn't pick up Donkey Kong, I didn't pick up Hyrule Warriors, New Super Mario Bros., Captain Toad, none of that stuff. None of them have appealed to me because I have them and I've played them and they're fine on the Wii U. But Pikmin 3, I think this might be it, man. It's got new content and it's got a control scheme I'm going to enjoy. So, and Hyrule Warriors, just wow. I'm so impressed with what Nintendo is doing. So, these are my thoughts about the Treehouse updates. What did you guys think? Are you excited for these games? Are you not? Did you enjoy the Treehouse? Did you not? Talk about it below. And with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of 2 Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.